Hello, everyone. We're waiting for Jerry. He should be here any minute now. Hey, Jerry.
Hi, Mary.
How are you?
Good. Can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see you yet. Maybe the video at the bottom. Perfect. And we're both in blue. Oh my gosh. Great minds think alike, huh? Hi, Christina.
Okay.
All right. Well, great. Welcome, Jerry. We have it's an honor to have you here with us. We have 4 attendees right now. So we have it as a webinar in a webinar format. So we can share this information with our clients via YouTube. So right now we're recording this. So thanks again for being here with us and for your time. If you can please introduce yourself a little bit, so your background in the eviction field. Oh, that'll be great.
Hi, my name is Jerry Carlos, and I'm an old guy. I bought my first house in 1973 and had my first rental in 1974. I've had rentals since that time. I was a patrol deputy for Riverside County Sheriff, and then I was a police chief, and then I went into real estate work, and I became a realtor in the early 1980s, real early 1981, when the FHA interest rate was 18.5%.
Wow.
18.5%, and we still figured out how to make the market move even then. So you guys have it easy now. It's like, what is it, -1% or something? They pay you to buy houses now. I started my eviction company in 1989.
Wow. Great. So that's many years of experience. And I can say that I've worked with you for the last, I think, about 13 years. And, all my clients work their evictions with you as well. So it's been great. And you are a, wealth of knowledge. So really happy and grateful that you're here with us. And if you can give us an update on what's going on, evictions in California during COVID-19 pandemic, and just to give you some information we have for attendees, as I mentioned before, real estate professionals, and we have a lender as well. So definitely, if you can share some information with us about what's going on right now during COVID-19 and evictions here in California and here in Southern California in our area.
Be happy to. Thank you. Let's think about something. You remember 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were a lot of sedans being purchased, and now that's changed. You see more SUVs being purchased and pickup trucks. The SUV, because it has a lot of things that you can do with it. So for all those realtors that are thinking, I'm not involved in rentals, that doesn't matter to me. That's not an important part of what I do. It really is. The more things you can do with the house, the more value that house is going to have. Just think about that. When a house by the beach can be Airbnb'd for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it can really add value to it. And when a city council passes a law that says you cannot do that, that's taken away a lot of value from it. And you have a lot of landlords now in some real high desire areas that are going, my whole support for my household is done off of Airbnb and doing nothing more. So it really is important what's going on around us on how governmental agencies are deciding we can use our houses and not use our houses. So for California, the bad news started last September of 2019, when Sacramento decided that tenants could have more time to respond to eviction papers that were served to them, or a 3-day notice that was done. and kind of made the announcement at that time that rent increases were going to be real regulated. And then when January 1st came, January 2020, everything hit. There were just absolute horrible rules. But little did I know that when the beginning of March came, the middle of March came, the worst of all would happen. I started this business in 1989 thinking, I want to do something that I can do when I'm old, like I am now, that I can do just simply by using my head instead of building houses or something, and something that will always be needed. Unlike other jobs that we see, truck drivers are going to go down in number down the road. Receptionists from big offices are gone. All kinds of things are going away. So I just always thought, we're always going to have rentals. We're always going to have tenants. And there will always be tenants that have issues in paying their rent. So let me do this tenant paying their rent business. And I thought, this is just great. COVID hit. And COVID hit, and it's a whole new world now. It really is. So I'll try and summarize, and I didn't have any idea on the time here at all. So what should I be looking at?
So before we go there, I want to go back to September when we had a lot of the changes with tenant, rights. Can you tell us what was the time that they had to respond, and how it was increased to how many more days?
All these things seem like minor, and oftentimes when you hear things on TV or in the news, whatever, it's like the tenants have to be out in 5 days. You have 5 days, whatever. I mean, and that's just such a fallacy, or if I may, just an outright lie and stupid comment to be making. But maybe in a place like Texas or some other states where you don't go to court, you just call up the sheriff's department, you have the deputy meet you, you go to the front door, and the deputy establishes that rent was paid or not paid, and they get ordered out. California hasn't been that way since, I imagine, my granddad was around. So back to your question. You used to be able to serve a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit on a Friday, expired on Monday. Okay? The day you serve a notice doesn't count, then you have 3 more days. Friday doesn't count. Friday doesn't count. You have Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, we file a case. Well, one of the tiny little things, just all this stuff adds up. One little thing was the weekends no longer counted. So if you served a notice on Friday, Friday still didn't count. Saturday didn't count. Sunday didn't count. Monday would be the first day. So then they had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The soonest you could file would be Thursday.
Thursday, that's one.
Okay. And then I think we're all kind of familiar with these rent caps that were done, which was real complicated, other than to say you got at least 5% a year that you can do if you do it properly. Maybe you can squeeze another 2% depending on the CPI district that you live in within the state. But just to be safe, 5% will keep you out of trouble.
Perfect. Well, great. So now with COVID-19, March hits, and we have all this new laws coming from federal and state. What's going on right now?
I'm going to try and simplify this a whole lot. Best way to put this is when the March hit, the federal government did what we were referring to as the CARES Act. And Trump signed that right around March 27th. And his CARES Act stated no evictions for 120 days. Now, a lot of people want to look at that and go, well, I don't fit in that CARES Act. The landlord's going. I don't have a federally backed loan or whatever else. It almost didn't matter. And I'll tell you why in a few more minutes. So that was one of the things. Now, right around the same time, this is really important. Someone might want to write dates down almost, but right around the same time, Governor Newsom signed an executive order that said there would be no evictions for 90 days after his lifting of the COVID emergency declaration. So you would hear that and you would think, oh, that sounds good because that's 1 month less than Trump's CARES Act. But the trick on that was The 90 days doesn't start until he being Newsom, until Newsom lifts the COVID decree. That was set to happen. That was set to happen and expire on June the 30th. So finally, we were going to be able to do evictions on July the 1st, other than the fact that the Trump bill still took us till the end of July. Okay. So June 30th comes, and I'm kind of like going through dusting things off of my office. I go, yeah, I can finally make some money again. And the following day, July 1st, Governor Newsom signs an extension of that bill for an additional 90 days. That takes it into September 30th. Now, remember, this is the important thing to remember. September 30th isn't the end of this. It's 90 days past September 30th. Now we're into December the 31st, which is the reason I'm telling all my clients that I don't expect we will be able to do an eviction for rent that's due until we get to the January rent that is due. For the previous rent for March through December, I don't even think we're going to be able to put that in a January eviction. That's going to be a whole other category, a whole other talk. But what I see right now for tenants that don't pay, they'll get away with it until January. And that's if nothing gets extended further. Now, having said that, I got to go back to the CARES Act and that eviction, the federal eviction moratorium that just expired this week. So one of the things I would want to remind all your people, please send me an email asking to be put on my email list, and you'll see the updates on all these items. It's Eviction Professionals, got to spell it right, it's plural, Eviction Professionals at yahoo.com. So the email I got out today, let me see if I have this right. Dear property owners, as we all know, CARES Act has expired this week. The Senate has been working on a bill with the White House that they are referring to as the HEALS Act, HEALS. This is for real. None of this is a joke. And the Democratic plan is called the HEROES Act, HEROES. So to summarize all this, and right now this is going on in DC today, right now between Nancy Pelosi and the Senate Republicans and the White House officials, whatever, how much of an extension is going to happen. One way to figure out things as best you can is if both plans have something similar in it, that's probably going to get extended. Both sides are talking about extending the eviction moratorium. One of the Democratic plans I saw was to extend it to January 31st, 2021, and another one was March 31st, 2021.
Wow.
March 31st, 2021 means don't worry about paying rent until April of next year.
Oh
now, Republican plan didn't seem to be too concerned about that at first. However, on Sunday, for those of you people that watched Face the Nation and those kinds of articles, whatever, Mr. Kudlow, whatever, who is the White House official, made the comment of, we will be extending the eviction moratorium. Don't know how far that will be done, but when both parties are saying they're going to extend it, it's getting extended. When both parties say they'll have some kind of weekly unemployment bonus, the Democrats wanting the 600, the Republicans saying 200, there's going to be a bonus in there. My guess would be something in the middle, but there will be something. So that's the way I have to look at these things and try and anticipate what we're going to see down the road. And that's basically it. That's the bad news. This has been a horrible year to be a landlord in California.
Wow. So as of right now, here in California, with what we have, the extension of Governor Newsom, And the 90 days after that, we're looking at January 1st, possibly, to be able to file a case with what we have right now. It's changing every day. So what about, landlords? I know that you and I spoke yesterday, and I know we have that Forbearance Act, where a lot of people that have a mortgage, they can apply for forbearance, and that's anyone, I guess, with a government-backed loan that can apply for that. And that would be also people that own a investment property. So for that, I'm sure that we can ask our lender, Tom Santos, if those would be any loan that is for investment property are also backed by the government and under the forbearance protection.
You're getting asked, or your loan person?
Well, what do you have to say to that? And I mean, I'm sure
Okay.
he can type an
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. The CARES Act had a ton of pages to it, and they tried to describe who would be covered by this and who might not. One of the things I found interesting was when the CARES Act said a federally backed loan, I also read something more that says, even if Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or FHA, whatever, doesn't show that, it doesn't mean that it's covered. So that wasn't really too helpful. What I'm looking at is that, once again, in anticipating what would be in the bill, our government leaders right now seem to be very concerned about a tsunami of evictions occurring. They are going to do what they can to prevent that from happening. That I don't see it any other way. But maybe one of the good things in there is I would think they have to be concerned about a tsunami of foreclosures going on.
Exactly.
Because the tenant can just move from one spot to another. They don't have to be evicted. What does the property owner do that hasn't been able to make his payment or just simply ran out of money?
Exactly.
I really have to think there's got to be some protection in there. I wanted to add one more thing before I leave on this topic in a way. We were talking about what CARES Act did, what Newsom's orders did, and somebody will always want to tell me, but I've got this exception. They haven't paid rent for 9 months, or they're got marijuana plants inside, whatever else. Here's the thing. I can stick a new filing into the court system because almost everything is e-filed. The court won't process it. That's the thing to remember. I can stick it in there, but it's not getting processed. And I've experimented with the different courts and different reasons. As I said, I filed a case for rent that was due through the end of February, pre-COVID. Court wouldn't process it. I filed a case in Orange County, the conservative county, for an illegal marijuana store, where the police were telling the owner to close it down. Court would not process it. Then I filed another case for someone that was throwing rocks at a neighbor, and the neighbor owned, her rental was right next door to her, some elderly lady, whatever. Court didn't see a problem. So the problem is right now, as long as we have a court closure that we do, and as long as the court is saying we're not going to do unlawful detainers, some of the other things almost don't matter. Whatever CARES Act does doesn't really matter because courts are not open anyway.
Wow. So it doesn't matter because also we have the state laws that are more restrictive.
Correct.
So.
And we have, might as well put it in there, we even have the cities that have passed city resolutions that are incredibly restrictive. City of Pasadena was looking at having commercial tenants not have to pay rent for a year. LA is considering a year and a half. City of Riverside, where you live, their city council passed a resolution, a city ordinance saying, if you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your August rent, we're going to give you 6 months to pay it. If so, therefore, if you don't pay your December rent, you're going to have through June of 2021 to make that payment. And that's why I'm saying until January 2021, you don't have to worry about paying any rent.
Wow. but of course it's best for people to pay because one way or another they're going to, I mean, then you're gonna have to file a small claims court, case against this person. So we have a question here from Christina. If I have clients that are interested in buying investment properties to rent out, what would you advise them, especially with the current times? Is that a good idea still?
Well, I always tell people, and it's not quite the answer they look for, but they're going, can I sell my property now? I have tenants in it. I'm going, yeah, of course you can. You know that. The sale of a property is simply the transfer of title. That's all it is. Now, your question is, two questions that the realtors always ask me. Well, I want to be able to show it. And that is, I always say, if the tenants want you to show it, then you have no problem. And once you've closed your sale, well, we want to take possession. If the tenants want to voluntarily leave, you have no problem either. And always keep in mind, there's nothing illegal about bribing somebody to leave or to cooperate. And that is probably your best shot for an uncooperative tenant right now.
Wow. So basically, offering cash for keys. That's what we're talking about.
Or cash for admittance, just to show it.
Or yeah, just to show it. And if that tenant sold, then the question is, if you have people wanting to invest on rental properties, though, that's kind of a very, tricky question to answer, because it's a, lottery in terms of if you're going to have a good tenant or not, or you're going to have a tenant that is going to try to take advantage of what's going on right now. So, I mean, there's no protection right there for a landlord.
Yeah, you keep talking. I'm just grinning at what you're saying. What can be said right now? From my background, as I mentioned, having been a patrol cop, I know what people are capable of, and yet I really have been pleasantly surprised that tenants have come through with as much rent as they have. If that $600 stops, I think we're going to see a real uptick in it. I think we're going to see some more problems occur. The word will get out. You don't have to. There'll be more people that are affected. There's some, as bad as it's been so far, this whole thing has the potential to get worse.
Yeah. So let's see. We have here our lender says that if it's a Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, or USDA loan, they can go into forbearance. He's not 100% sure if it's going to be only primary residence, or I don't know if the bill says that it has to be a primary residence for it to be allowed to go in forbearance. So he's saying that he has not heard yet about investment properties being in forbearance yet.
Okay, keeping in mind all those things, I'm going to say again, in one way, it really doesn't matter, because California isn't allowing foreclosures to occur.
California?
California is not allowing foreclosures to occur.
Okay, so that's stopping that right there. So that's going to be a difficult one. We have here also Tom Santos. He says, I would ask if rent loss insurance covers the loss of rent for 6 months. So that would be a type of insurance, I guess, that a landlord can get. But this is taking longer than 6 months for what we're looking at.
Yes, I just went through a disaster insurance claim for a place that I have out of state. It affected 4 units there, but I was really talking with the insurance people for a while, and I used to be an insurance investigator. I was more familiar with the business stuff, and a lot of business owners were trying to put in claims for business interruption and other things that occurred. And the insurers, more than ever, are trying to fight that from happening. And in the tenant situation, the residential stuff anyway, is that a lot of people could have a rider in there if the house was uninhabitable because of damage that had been done, whatever, and you'd get the rent for that period of time. This isn't looked at as a tenant going away. The tenant's still there. That's one of the big issues. This would be the same thing. The insurer would just simply come back and go, well, you need to have them evicted and get a tenant that pays. That would be their response. Their concern isn't that you can get them evicted. That's not their issue.
So yeah, that's something to look into. Definitely insurance companies are going to try to get away with what they can as well, unless there is something put in place from the government to help in that regard. So I'm sure it's a lot of uncertainty right now.
When you mention that, I'll say there really is a whole lot here in this field right now. The state, when I say the state, I mean Sacramento, our state assembly, our state senate, and my commercial is I am running for state assembly. I came in first place in the primary. It's elect Jerry Carlos. If you want to donate to my campaign, have the voices of property owners heard in Sacramento. Elect Jerry Carlos. But one of the interesting, crazy things that's going on right now, one of these bills, is that California is going to get involved in an agreement between a landlord and tenant. And this is all voluntary right now, if the landlord and tenant want to do it. And if, for example, $10,000 is owed by the tenant to the landlord, the state is saying, landlord, we will give you a check for $5,000. But you have to agree to forgive other $5,000 that's owed by the tenant to you. So if you accept $5,000 from us, you let the tenant get current then, and you don't do anything to the tenant. And then the other part of that is, so that California doesn't go totally broke, California is saying, tenant, we want you to sign a promissory note to us for $5,000. And we will give you 10 years to pay that back. That is actually a bill under consideration right now.
Wow.
So that's why I have something to do, it seems like, all the time right now, because I'm just looking at this bill, CARES Act, HEROES Act, HEALS Act, and whatever else we have going in the individual cities, whatever. In my 31 years, I've never had anything like this.
Wow. So definitely it's a lot of uncertainty. That's something that they're still talking about it, but yeah, where's the state going to get all that money also from? So there's a lot of questions there as well. So any other questions from our attendees regarding the situation? I know Christina asked if recommends any good way to get good qualification for tenants you have found to protect landlords or find strong tenants.
Obviously. By the way, one thing to try and be smart about if you were renting, if you're a landlord right now and renting out, remember that the rules say you can only collect 2 times the monthly rent for a deposit. But there aren't rules for how much rent you can collect in advance. So if you can collect 3-6 months in advance, this is definitely time to be doing it. Forget about the deposit. In some way, it doesn't matter anyway. But there's no limit on how much you can get in advance. Somebody can pay a year's worth of rent in advance. Get as much as you can that way. Yeah. And then just assume that you're not going to be able to do anything until next year. That should be your assumption. That should be your checkbook.
Exactly. But that would be someone that really wants to rent, is in a desperate need and has the money. That would be the best case scenario, to get the rent in advance, to be safe. So Christina says, great, interesting idea. Thank you. Great. So any other questions? Anything else, Jerry, that you would like to add right now? I know things are changing, like you said, what we're talking about today is as of right now, but things can change maybe later today or tomorrow. So
later today even. Once again, send me an email, evictionprofessionals@yahoo.com. I'll put you on my list and you will be updated that way with sarcasm, occasional sad joke, whatever else, but we'll be letting you know what's going on.
Yes, I really enjoy your updates. They're really good. So please sign up for his emails, evictionprofessionals@yahoo.com. Thank you so much, Jerry, for your time. Again, it's always great, talking and getting all the updates. And thanks for taking the time to read through all those bills and everything that's going on. Again, it's very uncertain times right now, and things are changing every minute right now. So thank you again. We'll keep in touch so we can get some more updates from you.
Real good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.